First contact. The sleek, silver spacecraft sliced through Earth's atmosphere, its hull glowing faintly as it descended towards the planet's surface. Inside Zara, the lead xenobiologist of the Galactic Science Academy, peered through the viewscreen with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. Earth, a planet long considered too primitive for official contact, was about to become her latest research subject. Zara's large, almond-shaped eyes blinked rapidly as she processed the vibrant blues and greens of the planet below. Her slender, gray-skinned fingers danced across the control panel, adjusting the ship's cloaking device to ensure it remained undetected by human technology. As an expert in studying developing species, Zara knew the importance of maintaining a low profile. Preparing for landing sequence, the ship's AI announced, its voice a soothing hum in the background. Zara nodded, her antenna twitching slightly in anticipation. She had studied the reports on humans extensively, but nothing compared to first-hand observation. The ship touched down silently in a small clearing within a dense forest, far from any human settlements. Zara took a deep breath, inhaling the ship's sterile air one last time before stepping out into the unknown. The airlock hissed open, and she was immediately assaulted by a cacophony of scents and sounds. The rich, earthy smell of the forest floor, the chirping of unfamiliar creatures, and the gentle rustle of leaves in the wind overwhelmed her senses. Cautiously, Zara made her way through the underbrush, her steps light and calculated. Her protective suit, designed to mimic human clothing, felt restrictive and uncomfortable. She couldn't understand why humans insisted on covering themselves so thoroughly. On her home planet, nudity was the norm, with clothing used only for protection against harsh environments. As she walked, Zara's mind raced with questions. What secrets did these humans hide beneath their layers of fabric? Were there biological adaptations or weaknesses concealed by their coverings? Her scientific curiosity burned, driving her forward despite her initial apprehension. The forest suddenly opened up into a vast meadow, and Zara found herself face to face with her first human. He stood tall, much taller than she had anticipated, with broad shoulders and a sturdy build. His skin was tanned from exposure to the sun, and his dark hair was cut short. He wore a uniform of some kind, with a badge glinting on his chest. For a moment, they stared at each other in stunned silence. Zara's heart raced as she realized her cover was blown. The human's eyes widened in shock, his hand instinctively moving to the communication device on his belt. "Hello," Zara said, using the English language she had studied so diligently. "I mean you no harm." The human blinked, his mouth opening and closing several times before he found his voice. What are you?" he asked, his tone a mixture of awe and fear. Zara straightened her posture, trying to appear as non-threatening as possible. "My name is Zara. I am a scientist from very far away. And you are?" The human hesitated before responding. "Jake. I'm a park ranger." He gestured to his uniform and badge. Are you an alien?" Zara nodded slowly. "Yes, I suppose that's what you would call me. I've come to study your species, to learn about you." Jake's posture relaxed slightly, but wariness still clouded his features. "Study us? Why? And how did you get here without anyone noticing?" "Our technology is more advanced," Zara explained, choosing her words carefully. "We've been observing Earth for some time, but this is our first direct contact. I'm here to gather more detailed information about humans." Jake's eyes narrowed. "What kind of information?" Zara's antenna twitched with excitement. This was her chance to satisfy her burning curiosity. "I want to know everything. Your biology, your culture, your technology. But most importantly," she paused, her gaze traveling over Jake's clothed form, "I want to see what you're hiding under those garments." Jake took a step back, his face flushing red. "Excuse me." "Your clothes," Zara pressed on, oblivious to Jake's discomfort. "Why do you wear them? What purpose do they serve? What are you concealing beneath them?" Jake's embarrassment quickly turned to indignation. That's That's private. We wear clothes for protection and modesty. It's not something we just show to strangers, especially not alien scientists. Zara tilted her head, puzzled by the concept. Modesty? I don't understand. On my world, we have no such concept. Our bodies are simply vessels for our consciousness. Why hide them? Jake sighed, running a hand through his hair. Look, it's complicated. Human society has developed certain norms and expectations. Clothing is a part of that. We can't just strip down because an alien asks us to. Zara's antenna drooped slightly in disappointment. But how am I supposed to study you properly if I can't observe your full biology? There could be crucial adaptations or weaknesses hidden beneath those layers. Jake shook his head firmly. That's not how this works. If you want to learn about humans, you'll have to do it on our terms. And those terms include respecting our privacy and our cultural norms. Zara felt frustration bubbling up inside her. This wasn't how she had imagined her first contact with humans. She had expected curiosity, perhaps fear, but not this stubborn resistance to scientific inquiry. But surely you understand the importance of my research. The knowledge I could gain could benefit both our species. Jake's expression softened slightly. I get that you're curious and that this is important to you. But you have to understand that you can't just come to our planet and start making demands, especially not ones that violate our personal boundaries. Zara's mind raced, trying to find a compromise. What if I showed you my biology first? Would that make you more comfortable? Jake's eyes widened in alarm. No, that's not necessary. Look, if you want to learn about humans, there are better ways. We can talk, I can answer your questions. But anything involving undressing is off the table. Zara's antenna drooped further. She had clearly miscalculated in her approach. I apologize if I've offended you, she said softly. Our cultures are very different, and I'm still learning. Perhaps we could start over. Jake seemed to relax a bit at her apology. All right, that's fair. But you have to promise to respect our boundaries. No more demands about seeing under our clothes, okay? Zara nodded eagerly. Agreed. I will observe and learn without infringing on your cultural norms. She paused, then asked hesitantly, So, where should we begin? Jake glanced around the meadow, then back at Zara. Well, first things first. We need to figure out what to do about your presence here. I can't exactly report an alien sighting without causing widespread panic. Zara's eyes widened. Oh, yes, of course. My mission is supposed to be covert. Perhaps we could keep my true nature a secret. Jake nodded slowly. That might be for the best, at least for now. But we'll need a cover story for you. And we might need to do something about your appearance. No offense, but you don't exactly blend in. Zara looked down at her grey skin and antenna. I see your point. My ship has technology that can help with that. A holographic disguise, perhaps. That could work, Jake agreed. But we'll need to be careful. If anyone finds out about you, it could cause a lot of problems. As they discussed their plan, Zara felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. This first contact hadn't gone as smoothly as she'd hoped, but it was a start. She had much to learn about humans, their culture, and their strange obsession with clothing. But one thing was clear. This mission was going to be far more complicated than she had anticipated. Jake led Zara back towards the forest, away from the open meadow where they might be seen. We need to get you somewhere safe, he said, his voice low. There's an old cabin not far from here. It's off the main trails, so we shouldn't run into anyone else. As they walked, Zara bombarded Jake with questions, her scientific curiosity overriding her earlier faux pas. Tell me, Jake, how do humans adapt to different climates with their clothing? Do you have specialized garments for various environments? Jake, still somewhat bewildered by the situation, found himself falling into the role of Earth's impromptu ambassador. Well, yeah, he replied. We have different clothes for hot and cold weather, for rain, snow, desert conditions, you name it. Zara's antenna perked up with interest. Fascinating. And these garments, they don't impede your movement or natural functions. Jake chuckled despite himself. Sometimes they do, actually. Ever tried to run in a suit and tie? But mostly, we figured out how to make clothes that work with our bodies, not against them. As they neared the cabin, Jake suddenly stopped, holding up a hand. "Wait here," he whispered. "I need to make sure the coast is clear." Zara watched as Jake cautiously approached the small wooden structure, her mind whirring with new questions and observations. Humans, it seemed, were far more complex than she had initially believed. Their attachment to clothing wasn't just about modesty or protection, it was deeply ingrained in their culture, their identity. As Jake waved her forward, indicating it was safe to approach, Zara realized that her mission had just become far more intriguing. She wasn't just here to study human biology anymore. She was here to unravel the mysteries of the human psyche, to understand the intricate social fabric that clothed this species in more ways than one. The real challenge, she thought as she stepped into the dimly lit cabin, wouldn't be seeing what humans hid under their clothes. It would be understanding why they felt the need to hide in the first place, the human enigma. Jake shut the cabin door behind them, his mind reeling from the surreal situation. He'd signed up to be a park ranger to protect nature, not to become humanity's first line of defense against alien curiosity. As he turned to face Zara, he couldn't help but marvel at the bizarreness of it all. "Okay," he said, running a hand through his hair, "we need to establish some ground rules." Zara's antenna twitched with interest. Ground rules? Is this another human custom? Jake couldn't help but chuckle. "Sort of. Look, if we're going to keep your presence here a secret, we need to be careful. No more talk about seeing under clothes, no probing." "Probing," Zara interrupted, her large eyes widening. "I hadn't considered that method of examination, but if you're offering—" "No," Jake exclaimed, his face flushing. "Definitely no probing. It's just an expression. What I mean is, no invasive examinations of any kind." "Got it." Zara nodded solemnly, though Jake could see the curiosity still burning in her eyes. "Understood. But how am I to conduct my research with such limitations?" Jake sighed, realizing he was in for a long night. "We'll figure something out. But first, we need to work on your disguise. You mentioned your ship has holographic technology." As Zara explained the intricacies of her advanced cloaking systems, Jake found himself marveling at the contradiction before him. Here was a being from across the stars, with technology beyond his wildest dreams, yet she was utterly baffled by the concept of pants. "So," Zara said, finishing her explanation, "I can project any human appearance you deem suitable. Perhaps you could describe an acceptable form." Jake hesitated, suddenly aware of the weight of his words. He was about to define humanity for an alien species. "Well, maybe something average. You know, not too tall, not too short. Brown hair, brown eyes, nothing too attention-grabbing." Zara nodded, and in a shimmer of light, her alien form was replaced by that of an unremarkable human woman. Jake blinked, impressed despite himself. "That's pretty convincing," he admitted. "Excellent," Zara replied, her voice now sounding perfectly human. "Now, shall we begin our cultural exchange? I'm particularly interested in human mating rituals. Your species' obsession with covering reproductive organs suggests complex social dynamics around procreation." Jake choked on air, coughing violently. "Whoa, whoa, whoa," he spluttered. "We are not discussing mating rituals." Zara tilted her head, confusion evident on her now human face. "But reproduction is a fundamental aspect of any species. Surely it's an important area of study." Jake pinched the bridge of his nose, feeling a headache coming on. "Look, Zara, humans are private about that kind of thing. We don't just talk about it with strangers." "Fascinating," Zara murmured, pulling out a small device and making notes. "Humans experience shame or discomfort when discussing biological functions. Perhaps an evolutionary adaptation to promote pair bonding. Can we please talk about something else?" Jake pleaded, desperately searching for a change of subject. His eyes fell on a newspaper he'd left on the cabin's small table. "Hey, how about I teach you about human news? Current events, that kind of thing." Zora's eyes lit up. "Oh yes. Information exchange is crucial for understanding a species' priorities and concerns." Relieved, Jake picked up the newspaper and began explaining the concept of journalism to Zara. As he walked her through articles about politics, environmental concerns, and technological advancements, he found himself seeing his own world through new eyes. "Wait," Zara interrupted, pointing to an article about space exploration. "Your species attempting interstellar travel, but your technology seems so primitive." Jake bristled slightly at the term. "We may not have faster-than-light travel or holographic disguises, but we've put people on the moon. We've sent robots to Mars. We're making progress." Zara studied him intently. "You're defensive. This matters to you." "Of course it matters," Jake replied, his voice passionate. "Exploration, pushing boundaries, it's what humans do. We may not be as advanced as your people, but we're curious. We dream big. We don't let our limitations stop us." As the words left his mouth, Jake realized he was no longer just talking about space exploration. He was defending humanity itself, standing up for his species in the face of an advanced alien civilization. Zara was quiet for a moment, her expression thoughtful. "I'm beginning to see that there's more to humans than I initially believed," she said softly. "Your passion, your drive, it's quite remarkable." Jake felt a surge of pride, followed quickly by a wave of uncertainty. He was just a park ranger, not a diplomat or a scientist. Yet here he was, representing all of humanity to an alien visitor. The weight of that responsibility settled heavily on his shoulders. "Zara," he said carefully, "I think it's important you understand something. Humans, we're not just one thing. We're diverse, complicated. We've done amazing things, but we've also made terrible mistakes. We're capable of great kindness and horrific cruelty. If you really want to understand us, you need to see all of it, the good and the bad." Zara nodded slowly. "I'm beginning to grasp that complexity. It's both fascinating and somewhat terrifying. How do you manage such diversity without descending into chaos?" Jake laughed. "Who says we don't? But that's the thing about humans. We're adaptable. We figure things out, even when it seems impossible." As the night wore on, Jake found himself engaged in the most surreal crash course in human civilization he could have imagined. He explained everything from the internet to ice cream, from democracy to dating apps. With each topic, he saw Zora's understanding of humanity grow, evolving from simplistic observations to nuanced insights. But even as he answered Zora's questions, Jake's own mind was buzzing with uncertainties. What would happen when Zara's people learned about humanity in all its complex glory? Would they see a species worth knowing, or a potential threat to be neutralized? As the first light of dawn began to creep through the cabin windows, Jake realized that in trying to explain humanity to Zara, he had gained a new perspective on his own species. They were standing on the precipice of something monumental: first contact, the meeting of two civilizations. And somehow, improbably, he was at the center of it all. "Zara," he said, his voice thick with the weight of the moment, "I think we've got a lot more to talk about." The alien scientist, still disguised as an ordinary human woman, met his gaze with eyes that now held a glimmer of understanding, and perhaps a touch of admiration. "Indeed, Jake," she replied, "it seems I've only begun to scratch the surface of the human enigma." As they stepped out of the cabin into the cool morning air, both human and alien knew that their journey of discovery was far from over. The sun rose on a new day, one that held the promise of bridging the gap between worlds, one conversation, one revelation, one shared moment of understanding at a time. The hidden strength of humanity. As the morning sun climbed higher, Jake and Zara ventured out of the cabin, their minds buzzing with the night's revelations. The forest around them seemed different now, charged with the energy of their unlikely alliance. Jake, still grappling with his role as humanity's impromptu ambassador, felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. "So, what's next on your alien research agenda?" Jake asked, trying to keep his tone light despite the gravity of their situation. Zara, still disguised as an ordinary human woman, looked thoughtful. "I believe it's time for some, what do you call it, hands-on experience." Jake's eyebrows shot up. "Whoa there, let's not get carried away." No, Zara laughed, the sound surprisingly human. "I meant experiencing human culture firsthand. Perhaps we could visit a population center." Jake hesitated. Taking an alien to a crowded area seemed risky, but he couldn't deny the value of the experience. "All right, but we'll need to be careful. There's a small town nearby. We can start there." As they hiked through the forest towards civilization, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the cusp of something monumental. Every step felt like a giant leap for intergalactic relations. Suddenly, a crackle of static burst from Jake's radio, making them both jump. "Ranger Jake, come in. We've got a situation." Jake exchanged a worried glance with Zara before responding. "This is Jake. What's going on?" "There's a wildfire spreading fast near Copper Creek. All hands on deck. Can you make it?" Jake's heart raced. A wildfire was serious business, but how could he respond with an alien in tow? He looked at Zara, seeing the curiosity burning in her eyes. "Is this one of those crisis situations you mentioned?" Zara asked, her voice low. "The ones that show humanity's true nature." Jake nodded grimly. "Yeah, you could say that. Look, this is dangerous. You should probably head back to your ship while I—" "No," Zara interrupted, her tone firm. "I came here to study humans. This seems like a prime opportunity." Jake wanted to argue, but time was of the essence. "Fine, but stay close and do exactly as I say. This isn't a game." As they raced towards Copper Creek, Jake's mind whirled. He was about to show an alien scientist humanity at its most vulnerable and its most heroic. The stakes couldn't be higher. They arrived at the scene to find chaos. Smoke billowed into the sky, turning day to twilight. Firefighters battled the blaze while volunteers scrambled to help evacuate nearby homes. The roar of the fire mixed with shouts and the wail of sirens, creating a cacophony of crisis. "My God," Zara whispered, her eyes wide with awe and fear. Jake squeezed her shoulder. "Welcome to humanity under pressure. Stay close." For the next several hours, Jake and Zara worked alongside the local community to fight the wildfire. Jake coordinated with other rangers to help guide the firefighters, while Zara, to his surprise, jumped in to help without hesitation. He watched in amazement as she quickly adapted to the situation, learning from those around her and applying her alien intellect to problem-solving in real time. She helped organize evacuation efforts, used her knowledge of meteorology to predict the fire's path, and even assisted in setting up a makeshift medical station for those affected by smoke inhalation. As the day wore on and the battle against the fire raged, Jake found himself constantly surprised by the displays of human resilience around him. Strangers worked side by side, risking their lives to save homes and wildlife. Children helped comfort scared animals, while elderly residents offered their homes as shelters. Through it all, Zara watched and learned, her eyes gleaming with a new understanding. This wasn't just a crisis, it was a crucible, revealing the true metal of humanity. As night fell and the fire finally began to recede, Jake found Zara standing alone, staring at the smoldering landscape. Her human disguise was smudged with soot, her clothes torn and dirty. She looked, for all the world, like any other exhausted volunteer. "So," Jake said, coming to stand beside her, "what do you think of humanity now?" Zara was quiet for a long moment, her gaze fixed on the horizon where the last flames flickered. "I think," she said slowly, "that I've greatly underestimated your species." Jake nodded, too tired to feel triumphant. "We're full of surprises." "Indeed," Zara agreed. "The way you all came together, the selflessness, the ingenuity, it was remarkable. On my world, we have technology to prevent such disasters. We've engineered our way out of needing this kind of community spirit. Jake smiled wryly. Sometimes I think our problems are what make us human. They force us to come together, to be better than we are. Zara turned to him, her expression serious. I came here thinking I would study a primitive species, Jake. Instead, I've discovered something extraordinary. Your technology may be behind ours, but your spirit, it's unlike anything I've ever seen. As they stood there, watching the community begin the process of recovery, Jake felt a swell of pride, not just in himself, but in all of humanity. They had faced the fire, and in doing so, had shown an alien visitor the best of what they could be. You know, Jake said, a hint of mischief in his tired voice, for someone who was so eager to see under our clothes, you seem pretty impressed by what we can do with them on. Zara laughed, the sound bright against the backdrop of the burned forest. I admit, I may have been focusing on the wrong things. There's clearly much more to learn about humans and what's on the surface. As they turned to leave, planning their next move, neither Jake nor Zara noticed the small drone hovering high above them, its camera fixed on the odd pair. In a remote government facility, grainy footage of an ordinary-looking woman seeming to flicker and shift into something decidedly not human played on a monitor, watched by wide-eyed officials. The truth was out there, and it was about to change everything, unveiling the extraordinary. The sun rose on a world forever changed, though most of humanity remained blissfully unaware. Jake and Zara, exhausted from their ordeal with the wildfire, made their way back to the secluded cabin, unaware of the storm brewing in the halls of power. As they approached the cabin, Jake's radio crackled to life. Ranger Jake, report to headquarters immediately. Code Omega. Jake froze, his blood running cold. Code Omega was reserved for the most severe emergencies, ones that threatened national security. He looked at Zara, her human disguise still active, but showing signs of strain. We've been compromised, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Zara's eyes widened. How? We were so careful. Before Jake could respond, the sky erupted with the thunderous sound of helicopter blades. Black, unmarked choppers appeared over the tree line, descending rapidly towards their location. Run, Jake shouted, grabbing Zara's hand and pulling her towards the dense forest. They crashed through the underbrush, branches whipping at their faces. Jake's mind raced. How had they been discovered? What would happen to Zara? To him? Suddenly, the forest ahead of them lit up with blinding floodlights. Figures in dark tactical gear emerged from between the trees, weapons raised. Stop right there, a voice boomed through a megaphone. By order of the United States government, you are both under arrest. Jake and Zara skidded to a halt, surrounded on all sides. Jake raised his hands slowly, his heart pounding. Please, he said, trying to keep his voice steady, we can explain. One of the figures stepped forward, lowering his weapon slightly. Ranger Jake Thompson, he said, his voice gruff but not unkind. You've caused quite a stir. And your friend here, he gestured towards Zara. Well, let's just say we have some questions. Zara looked at Jake, fear and uncertainty in her eyes. Jake nodded slightly, and Zara's human disguise flickered and faded, revealing her true alien form. Gasps and muttered exclamations rippled through the assembled agents. The lead agent, to his credit, barely flinched. Well, he said, a hint of awe in his voice, I guess the eggheads weren't crazy after all. As Jake and Zara were led to a waiting helicopter, Jake couldn't help but feel a mix of terror and exhilaration. The secret was out. Humanity was about to face its greatest challenge yet, and he was at the center of it all. The helicopter ride was tense and silent. Jake and Zara sat side by side, surrounded by stern-faced agents. Through the window, Jake watched the landscape change from dense forest to rolling countryside, and finally to the outskirts of a major city. They landed on the roof of a nondescript government building. As they were led inside, Jake marveled at the contrast between the ordinary-looking exterior and the high-tech interior. Screens lined the walls, displaying data streams and satellite imagery. People in suits and lab coats hurried about, casting curious glances at the odd pair. Finally, they were ushered into a large conference room. At the head of the table sat a woman with sharp eyes and an air of authority. She stood as they entered. "Welcome," she said, her voice calm but laden with intensity. "I'm Director Samantha Harper. You've given us quite the challenge, Ranger Thompson. And you," she turned to Zara, "have given us the opportunity of a lifetime." Jake stepped forward. "Director, I can explain." Harper held up a hand, silencing him. "No need, Ranger. We've been monitoring your interactions with our visitor for the past 48 hours. What I want to know is this." She leaned forward, her gaze locked on Zara. "What are your true intentions here on Earth?" Zara straightened, her antenna twitching slightly. "As I explained to Jake, I'm a scientist. I came here to study humanity, to understand your species." Harper nodded slowly. "And what have you learned?" Zara glanced at Jake before responding. "I've learned that humans are extraordinary. Your resilience, your spirit, your capacity for both destruction and creation. It's unlike anything I've encountered in my studies." A murmur ran through the room. Harper's expression remained neutral, but Jake caught a glimmer of pride in her eyes. "And what do you intend to do with this knowledge?" Harper pressed. Zara hesitated. I'm not sure. My original mission was simply to observe and report back. But now," she looked at Jake again, something unspoken passing between them. "Now, I believe there's potential for something more. A partnership, perhaps." Harper leaned back, a small smile playing at her lips. "A partnership. Interesting. And what would your people think of that?" Zara's antenna drooped slightly. "To be honest, I'm not sure they're ready. They still see humans as primitive, potentially dangerous. But I've seen what humanity is capable of. I believe an alliance between our species could benefit both worlds." Jake's heart raced. This was it, the moment that could define humanity's future in the cosmos. Harper stood, pacing slowly around the room. "What you're proposing is unprecedented. It carries enormous risks and enormous potential rewards." She stopped, turning to face them. "But before we can even consider such a thing, we need to know everything. About your people, your technology, your intentions. No more secrets." Zara nodded sullenly. "I understand, and I'm willing to share what I know. But in return, I ask for your trust and your protection." Harper's eyebrow raised. "Protection? From what?" "From those who might see this alliance as a threat," Zara replied. "Both on your world and mine." The room fell silent as the weight of her words sank in. Jake realized they were standing on the precipice of a new era, one that could lead to unimaginable progress or unthinkable conflict. Harper took a deep breath. "Very well. We'll provide you with protection and resources to continue your research. In exchange, you'll work with our scientists to share your knowledge. And you, Ranger Thompson," she turned to Jake, "will act as liaison between Zara and our team. You've proven yourself capable in extraordinary circumstances." Jake nodded, a mix of relief and anticipation washing over him. "Yes, ma'am. I won't let you down." As they were led out of the conference room to begin their new assignment, Jake couldn't help but feel a sense of wonder. He had set out to protect a forest and ended up potentially changing the course of human history. Zara leaned close, her voice low. "Jake, are you ready for this? To be the bridge between our worlds?" Jake smiled, a determined glint in his eye. "Ready as I'll ever be. Let's show the universe what humanity's really made of." As they walked side by side, human and alien, into an uncertain but thrilling future, neither could shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of an adventure beyond their wildest dreams. The cosmic crucible. The world changed overnight. News of alien contact spread like wildfire, igniting a global firestorm of excitement, fear, and speculation. Jake Thompson, once an obscure park ranger, found himself thrust into the spotlight as humanity's unexpected ambassador to the stars. Zara's presence on Earth had become the hottest topic on every social media platform, news channel, and dinner table conversation across the planet. Hashtags like #AlienTruth and #CosmicContact trended worldwide, while conspiracy theories and wild speculation ran rampant. In the heart of a top-secret facility dubbed Stargate Alpha, Jake and Zara worked tirelessly alongside Earth's brightest minds. The complex buzzed with activity, a hive of scientific breakthrough and cultural exchange. "All right, people," Director Harper's voice cut through the chatter of the main laboratory. "Status update. Dr. Chen, what have we learned about Zara's technology?" A bespectacled scientist stepped forward, barely containing his excitement. "Director, it's revolutionary. Zara's faster-than-light drive alone could advance our space program by centuries. And don't even get me started on their energy production methods." Jake couldn't help but smile at the scientist's enthusiasm. It was a far cry from his initial fear of the unknown. He caught Zara's eye across the room, seeing a mix of pride and apprehension in her alien features. "Excellent," Harper nodded. "And the cultural exchange program?" This time, it was Jake's turn to speak up. "It's going well, Director. We've set up secure video conferences with schools and universities worldwide. Zara's insights into alien cultures have been mind-blowing. Kids especially are eating it up." Harper allowed herself a small smile. "Good. Public opinion is crucial right now. The more we can educate, the less we have to fear." She turned to Zara. "And what of your people? Any word?" Zara's antenna drooped slightly. "I sent messages, but nothing yet. I fear they may not approve of my actions." A tense silence fell over the room. The implications were clear. Earth's newfound alien ally might soon become a refugee. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility. Red lights flashed as panicked voices filled the air. "Director." A young technician burst into the room, his face pale. "We're picking up multiple objects entering Earth's atmosphere at high speed. They're heading straight for us." Harper's eyes widened. "Zara, are these your people?" Zara shook her head, her expression grim. "No, this is something else, something worse." Jake felt his heart race as he looked at the monitors. Sleek, predatory ships descended from the sky, their designs unlike anything Zara had described. "It's the Vraxen," Zara whispered, her voice filled with dread. "Galactic scavengers. They must have intercepted my transmissions." "What do they want?" Jake asked, though he feared he already knew the answer. "Everything," Zara replied. "Technology, resources, slaves. They strip planets bare." Harper's jaw set in determination. "Not this planet. Not on our watch." She turned to her team. "Initiate global defense protocols. And someone get me the president." As chaos erupted around them, Jake felt a strange calm settle over him. This was it, the moment that would define not just his life, but the fate of his entire species. "Zara," he said, turning to his alien friend. "I need to know, can we win this?" Zara met his gaze, her alien eyes filled with a mix of fear and resolve. "I don't know, Jake. The Vraxen are formidable. But then again, a small smile played at her lips. So are humans." Jake nodded, a plan already forming in his mind. "Then let's show these cosmic bullies what happens when you mess with Earth." As they raced to prepare Earth's defenses, Jake couldn't help but marvel at the irony. He had once feared what lay beneath human clothing. Now he was about to reveal humanity's true strength to the entire galaxy. The next few hours were a blur of frantic activity. World leaders convened in emergency sessions, militaries mobilized, and civilians alternated between panic and a surreal sense of unity in the face of a common threat. At Stargate Alpha, Jake, Zara, and the team worked tirelessly to integrate Zara's advanced knowledge with Earth's existing defense systems. It was a desperate race against time, but with each passing minute, hope grew stronger. As the Vraxan ships entered Earth's lower atmosphere, humanity held its breath. This was the moment that would determine their cosmic fate. "All systems ready," Dr. Chen announced, his voice tense but steady. Director Harper nodded grimly. "On my mark. Now." Jake watched in awe as beams of energy shot up from hidden installations around the globe. Zora's technology, combined with human ingenuity, created a defense network unlike anything the universe had seen. The Vraxan ships, caught off guard by the unexpected resistance, broke formation. Several smaller craft plummeted from the sky, disabled by the Earth's defenses. "It's working," Jake exclaimed, unable to contain his excitement. But their celebration was short-lived. The larger Vraxan ships regrouped, unleashing a barrage of weaponry that shook the very foundations of Starbase Alpha. "We can't hold them off forever," Zara warned, her fingers flying over alien controls. "We need a decisive strike." Jake's mind raced. They needed something unexpected, something uniquely human. His eyes fell on a nearby screen showing social media feeds. Despite the chaos, people around the world were sharing messages of hope, unity, and defiance. An idea struck him. "Director," he called out, "what if we fight them with more than just weapons? What if we show them who we really are?" Harper raised an eyebrow. "What do you have in mind, Thompson?" Jake grinned. "Let's give these aliens a taste of human culture. Flood their systems with our music, our art, our stories. Show them that we're not just another planet to conquer, we're a civilization worth knowing." Zara's eyes widened. The Vraxans' neural networks are sensitive to complex data streams. It just might work. Harper hesitated for only a moment before nodding. "Do it." What followed was perhaps the strangest battle in Earth's history. As energy weapons flashed across the sky, the airwaves were filled with a cacophony of human creativity. Symphony orchestras and rock bands, classic literature and viral memes, all streamed directly into the Vraxan ships. The effect was immediate. The alien fleet faltered, their coordinated attack dissolving into confusion. "It's overloading their systems," Dr. Chen shouted, excitement evident in his voice. Jake watched in amazement as the Vraxan ships began to retreat, their fearsome weapons falling silent. Humanity's culture, in all its beautiful, chaotic glory, had proven to be their ultimate defense. As the last Vraxan ship disappeared into the stars, a deafening cheer erupted in Stargate Alpha. Jake found himself swept up in a sea of jubilant hugs and high-fives. Zara approached him, her alien features alight with wonder. "Jake," she said softly, "I think I finally understand what makes humans truly special. It's not what's under your clothes, it's what's in your hearts and minds." Jake laughed, the tension of the past hours finally releasing. "Well, it took an alien invasion, but I'm glad we finally got that cleared up." As news of Earth's victory spread, a new era dawned for humanity. They had faced their first cosmic challenge and emerged not just victorious, but united. The boundaries that had once divided them seemed insignificant in the face of their shared triumph. In the days that followed, Earth buzzed with a new energy. The knowledge that they were not alone in the universe, and that they could hold their own against advanced alien threats, sparked a renaissance of scientific and cultural advancement. Jake, once a simple park ranger, found himself at the center of it all. As Earth's ambassador to the stars, he would go on to lead humanity's first official diplomatic missions to other worlds. With Zara by his side, he would bridge the gap between Earth and the wider galactic community. But no matter how far he traveled or how strange the aliens he encountered, Jake never forgot the lesson he learned during those fateful days. That the true strength of humanity lay not in any hidden physical attribute, but in the indomitable spirit that clothes could never conceal. As Earth took its first steps into a larger universe, Jake couldn't help but smile. The cosmic adventure was just beginning, and humanity was ready to show the galaxy what they were truly made of, clothes and all.